Good evening, everyone. Hi, guys. A very warm welcome to today's online seminar. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is a very special day here at GRE. At today's GRE Guest Talk, we have a very special guest coming forward, a 332 scorer with the aspiration of probably joining one of the best universities for masters in the fall 19 admission intake, Miss Anisha. Hi, Anisha. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. Hi. Yeah.
Hi Anisha, thank you so much for your time. I know it's been quite a packed year for you, and it's very good to have you here. And first of all, I'd also like to congratulate you on this spectacular score, 332 in GRE. And coming from a third year student, I think it's an incredible achievement. That's great. It's good to have you here.
Yeah.
All right. So I think a lot of audience have also said hi, congrats. Manikandan says congratulations, Anisha. Lot more congratulations to message coming in. All right. Yeah. So I think we can officially move forward with Zimna. Anisha, rather than me talking, can you please introduce yourself to the audience at this point in time?
Sure thing. Hello, I'm Anisha, as I've already been introduced. I scored 332 in GRE, and I'm presently studying in my third year of BTech at Heritage Institute of Technology, and I'm pursuing computer science engineering. So yeah, I can see my scores on the screen. Thanks for that. So I scored like a 168 in quant, 164 in verbal, and 5 in AWA. So that kind of equates to like a 94th percentile for both quantitative and verbal. As for AWA, I think it was like a 93rd percentile. Yeah.
Wow. I think it's actually a pleasure to have you here to sharing your experience at this point of time. So it's very good to have you here, Anisha. I think we can go forward. The very first question, like I told you, a little more understanding of, okay, what is your undergrad CGPA? That's the next question students have here.
Okay, yeah. Currently, it's 9.09. So yeah, I'm working towards it. Let's see.
Okay. Working towards it. Okay. All right. So you said you were from which stream are you specializing at this point of time?
Computer science and engineering right now.
Okay, all right. So computer science and engineering student with a 332 in GRE in third year right now. That's actually a very good credentials to have. Now, before we move forward, like to talk about GRE preparations, I would like to ask a little bit about your master's dream. Now, can you please elaborate on what was your primary motivation to go for a master's or apply for a master's? What triggered the thought process in you?
Sure. So last summer, I was working at New Jersey Institute of Technology in the US. And after coming back from there, I totally grasped the situation. And previously, I had completely different goals. But then after coming back from there, I was like, okay, I want to pursue research, especially in artificial intelligence, which was my field of work over there. And so yeah, just after coming back, I told my parents that, okay, I want to start with my GRE preparations. And then I started off straight away. So yeah.
Okay, so having seen that experience of what masters could offer, definitely tempted you to go for GRE.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this internship in New Jersey, right, NJIT, what kind of internship was it? What was it about?
Okay, it was about spiking neural networks. So that's like an offshoot of artificial intelligence, pretty much the central thing. So I started working, so you have different kinds of neural networks. I was working on leaky, integrate, and fire neural networks. So I basically had to build a robot that would track an isotherm. So that was my project for the summers. It lasted for about 45 days. And yeah.
Okay, 4 to 5 days. I think a lot of good experience.
45,
I think.
45, yeah.
45. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I think that pretty much goes to say that you're looking at robotics or AI. That's what is in sync with your research, right? Okay. Now, I think moving on, the moment someone scores their GRE, I think the very next step is obvious to look at the universities you're targeting. Now, it goes without saying, with the 332 in GRE, what are the dream universities you have in mind for fall 19, and where do you aspire to get admits from?
Right. So on the day of the GRE exam, I had to shortlist like 4 universities. So yeah, they're listed over here. So first was Georgia Institute of Technology, then North Carolina State University, University of California, Davis, as well as Santa Cruz. Now, a lot of people ask me that, okay, how do you select the universities, or what do you look at when you're selecting universities? So, well, one thing is obviously repute, and in given your scores, what universities could you actually look at? And the other thing would be that obviously convenience. Where could you get convenient grants from? So those are all the things that you have to look out for in the future as well. So you have to take future considerations while deciding the dream universities that you really want to go for.
All right. So, like I expected a question from Shruti from the audience. Why is Stanford missing? Balakrishnan wants to know why is Harvard missing? So, what's your answer for that?
Right. Maybe like, of course, I'm going to apply for all those universities as well, and I'm really trying to build a proper CV in addition to my GRE score, so that maybe I'll get admission over there. But then I was just trying to be realistic while choosing my 4 universities for the GRE exam day. So what they do is they send your scores to 4 universities, any 4 universities of your choice, and absolutely free of cost. So I wanted those to be like sure shot universities that I would guarantee with like a 99.9% that I could get through given my score. So yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough. I think it also makes sense, the logic behind choosing these 4 universities, because one should be ambitious, two should be achievable. Because if the GRE score goes down, then even in that case, you will still apply to the achievable university. So it's always a good combination you've made here. Now, one question I see, a very common pattern from the audience is, have you published any research work so far?
Not really. I'm still working towards it. Like currently, I'm working at Jadavpur University, Kolkata. So my topic of research over there is Bengali handwritten text recognition. So let's see how far that goes. And then I also have a summer internship lined up. So let's see. Like I'm really hoping for the best. Yeah.
All right, all right. I think more questions about your profile, and I think that follows. But I think very important thing to consider here, all of them is here about GRE preparations, right? Before we take a stab at that, I have one very common question in my webinars on an everyday basis. The question that comes from the fact that the timeline. Now, it's just been like 2 months for us, where fall 18 students are like, am I late? Am I late? Am I late? And then we start talking to fall 19 students, and half of them are like, I have time. Do I have time? I don't know. It's a confused communication around everywhere. So as a student who I know, I think you have a timeline in mind for your GRE and masters, right? So can you take us through what are the steps involved in going through your application process all the way to getting the admit, and which months are you planning to do that?
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So firstly, I started with my GRE preparation very early. So I came back like last year in August, say. And straight after coming back, I applied to GRE Edge and I took the 4 months course. And then finally, I appeared for my GRE exam in January, like early Jan. So that was my timeline for the GRE preparation. And the reason I did that was, firstly, I did not want to leave too many things for the last minute. And I know like the GRE exam is expensive and all, but then the other thing that I was wondering was that this was the only target I had at that moment. That I need to get a good GRE score and I need to secure a good university abroad, preferably in the US. So given all those parameters, I thought that giving a late exam would be risky just in case I had to retake the exam. So that was one consideration that I had in mind. So which is why I started the GRE preparation early, and I think it paid off because my semester coursework was also light at the time. So that's one thing that we've covered. So that's GRE preparation. Secondly, if you're asking me about shortlisting universities and starting with the research courses, to be very honest, I haven't started yet. I mean, I'm still looking at universities and I still haven't fixed upon anything. But then, yeah, the university names that you showed, those are pretty much what I am targeting, and I'll apply here and around as well. Thirdly, if you're talking about giving the GRE and the TOEFL, I've already talked about giving the GRE. Now, the good thing about the GRE is that it has a 5 years validity, as opposed to a TOEFL exam, which just has a 2 years validity. So, giving the TOEFL exam early would be kind of a risk, whereas giving the GRE exam early is fine, it's fair play. So that's what I did. I still haven't appeared for my TOEFL exam as yet, but then I plan to appear for it by August. So like by the middle of 2018, I should be done with my TOEFL as well. And thirdly, if you're asking about starting statement of purpose and LOR collections, I think I would start that again in August, so that by then I have given myself sufficient time to actually build my profile a little bit more, so that I have other professors who could recommend me. And yeah, that would help me collect the transcripts. And then finally, if you're talking about finalizing and uploading the documents, that would come by October, I guess. So as far as my understanding goes, the university deadlines for most universities abroad are November, I think. So given that parameter, I think you're 1 month ahead, which is like pretty good. So if you can actually plan your timeline that way, I think it's more secure, and well, you have chances of doing well. Yeah.
If you're aspiring for Stanford, I think a student should give a GRE in January for the November deadlines, giving yourself the 10 months
Yeah.
space to, give yourself the profile building activities. Are you really having the score needed for that? So I think you're ticking off one by one, and in fact, well ahead of the race as well. Right, that's a fantastic thing to be. It's a good place to be in even at this point of time. So I think that's great. I think, guys, I think now this would effectively answer a lot of questions on how to plan your entire process. There are various steps involved in each and every journey, and how do you allocate time? And also, like our guest mentioned, your fourth year is going to be as tough as possible. So you have to be very clear about that and plan your entire journey. That's very clear. Now, on that note, I would like to understand a little bit about the audience here. Guys, when are you guys planning to give your GRE? Right now, do you have an idea on when are you guys planning to give your GRE? I'll just quickly launch a poll in your screen right now, because I want to understand what you're thinking at this point of time. So from now, I can see that a lot of people have said April next month. Written GRE, 1 month, 40 days, 45 days, 3 days, says Harshit Mandada. Wow. Harshit, I wish you all the best from our side. Now, May says Anand Pratap. Okay. So how was your D-Day experience like, Anisha, on the day of GRE? How did you feel?
I was nervous. I was extremely nervous. And but I think that's a given for everyone. But then the main hurdle is to overcome that nervousness, because I guess the more confident you are, the better it gets. I mean, I attempted all the mock tests that GREH provided me, as well as all the tests on the ETS website. So despite all that, my scores weren't as good as this, and I was really worried, to be honest. I was extremely worried. So on the morning of the exam, I took some time to cool down, and well, I just told myself that things are going to be fine. And well, when I actually went there, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. So I think that's one thing that really helped me secure the score that I got. So yeah.
I think that kind of makes very clear sense. You are very prepared for it. I have a question from Monty Shyama. Do you happen to remember your GREH adaptive test scores? So, Monty, is it the full-length test or the diagnostic test? Which are you talking about? Do you remember your full-length score?
None of them. None of them. But then they were all like 3. I don't know. Like I did hit 320 up sometimes, but then most of it was below that. So yeah, it wasn't that good.
This exam was tougher than the GRE.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you're doing a good job then, I think. Right, that's the objective, to keep you as tough, as prepared as possible, so that when you go to the GRE,
I think so, yeah.
relevant and easy. All right, I think with that, we can just jump to the GRE preparations for which most of the students are collected here. I think they have, like I said, I already got the question, how many words? I told you, right? There are a lot of people regarding GRE preparation, so we'll go one by one as here. So first of all, as a third year student, like what were the primary challenges that you faced with respect to GRE preparation, as well as the sections as well? What were the difficulties you faced?
Right. So I guess one given difficulty is the RC from the verbal reasoning section. So that is like one given difficulty. I've seen most of my friends struggle with it. I was struggling with it. So yeah, that's one thing. And then the other thing that you mentioned, 3,500 words, how on earth do you do that? So that's the second thing. And the third thing was with actually maintaining regularity despite my schedule. I mean, I was still working on my JU project that I just mentioned. So that's ongoing, and that was ongoing then as well. So I had to balance both that, academics, this. So yeah, that's a lot on anyone's plate. But then I think with regular practice any time of the day, like even like 1 hour, that kind of helped me go past it and increase my speed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that kind of is a very, very important challenge is that once you realize it's a challenge, you start solving one by one. So I'll start with this question, of course. You scored a 168 in one. Now, honestly, it's kind of the score that everybody wants to target, and you got it. Now, what's your secret for a 168 in one?
Right. So mostly, as most of the people would agree with over them, it's that quantitative is definitely more easier than verbal reasoning for a lot of the people. I mean, I guess majority of us. So that's because quantitative is mainly based on your reasoning skills and not too many formulas to remember. Maybe some of them from like class 10 level maximum, but then that's about it. Now the main thing to actually work on is your speed, so that you can accurately answer questions in the little time that you have. So you have 20 questions in 35 minutes. So that gives you like 1 minute, 45 seconds for each question. So that was one big thing for me that I really had to, and I was out of practice with maths for some time. So like actually solving questions within the time constraint. I mean, given time, I could solve them, but then within that time constraint, that was the main thing. So that was there. And the thing is, because everyone scores well in quantitative, so the percentile scores are also very hard to achieve. So hitting a 160 in verbal is like a big achievement, but then okay, 168, why not 170, right? So even like 170, I checked, is like a 96th percentile. I mean, I'm stuck at a 94th percentile, and the full marks is like a 96. Exactly.
Okay.
So it's like everyone's scoring really, really high. So the competition is really high out there. So the main thing is improving your accuracy and speed and just trying your best. And of course, remaining focused and confident throughout.
All right. I think that kind of makes sense. The more competitive you are with respect to quant, it's very important because that's one strong suit I'm pretty sure Indian students can claim at any point of time. Now, I want to understand, audience, I have a question for you here. Among the given GRE quant syllabus, which we all know, arithmetic, algebra, geometry, data interpretation, which one do you find is the most difficulty area for you? Because I'm going to ask the same question to the guest after this. So I want to understand the audience, yeah. So, okay, data interpretation, geometry, okay, data interpretation, analysis, geometry. What about others? You can just part in conversation, geometry. Wow. Geometry, interpretation, geometry. I think we are in luck today, Anisha. All right. So, quite as I expected, I also asked specifically Anisha to share us some tips regarding geometry in particular, because that happens to be a common bigger area for so many students, right? So, Anisha, with respect to geometry, have you come across any difficult question, any question that you believe kind of was an eye opener for you, which you can share with our audience here?
Sure. So a lot of the times we actually go for, I think we could go to the next slide, where sometimes graphical solving comes into use, and sometimes the graph is given, like over here. So you guys can read through the question and try and solve it, I guess. And I will just come back to you with why I actually put up this question. I mean, it's pretty easy. This question is actually easy, but then just go through it once. Yeah.
All right. So guys in the audience, there's a question for you right now, and we can get started. This is a very interesting part of the segment here. So the question that it says on your screen is, the figure shows a line segment PQ whose endpoint coordinates are 3, 5 by 2 and Q is 3, 11 by 2, and a circle of center 7, 4 with a radius of 3 by 2. Which of the following are the possible distances between the middle point on the line segment and a point on the circle? This is the question for you. Now, can you please give me the strategy on how you would exactly solve this problem? Possibly with the answers as well, I'm okay. But I want to understand, how would you approach this particular question? So far, I've got answers for all the options. I've got 4, I've got 3, I've got 5, I've got 6, I've got a 4.5. Okay, so just let me know what is the strategy with which you'll solve the problem. I think that's what I'm looking for. Let's see who has it. So Tej Pratap, Bandhan. In the meantime, I can see a lot more attendees having joined us as we move forward. For the people, for example, Namrata, Namrit, Naveen, Pragya Agarwal, very, very good to have you here. For the people just joining us for the first time, there's a chat box on the right of your screen. If you click on that, you can also interact with us. And if you're currently on a mobile phone, there's a question mark button at the top. If you click on that, you'll also access the chat box. Now, Aishwarya R is given a statistical midpoint formula and distance formula is needed. That's Aishwarya R's approach. Sumit Singh says locate the center. Okay. Tej Pratap says min max distance. Okay. That is answer lies in between min and max distance. Okay. Some answers have also come 4, 4.5, 4, 5, 4, 3. Okay, guys, can you just type in how would you approach? What do you think you need? Okay, so Anand Pratap says find the midpoint of the line, then find the distance between center of the midpoint of line and center. Okay, Satya Siva says I think the answer is 4.5. Akhil says Pythagoras theorem. Okay, all right. So one more answer has come saying 6. Okay, I think a lot more approaches are coming in right now. So, Anisha, I think I give up. Can you take us through why you have raised this particular question here?
Sure, absolutely. As I said, it's actually a really simple question, and I hope you guys notice that this is a multiple choice question. And yes, don't jump the gun. I mean, once you see the question, actually think about it calmly and try and understand what is the best way of approaching the problem. So, yeah, I guess we can skip to the solution slide. That's, I guess, 2 slides away. Yeah. So, yeah, as many of you suggested, you obviously have to find out the midpoint of the line segment, because that is what the question says specifically, that you have to find out the distances of the points on the circle from the midpoint of the line segment PQ. So you apply your regular distance midpoint formula. So you take like both the x coordinates divided by 2 and the ordinates, that is the values on the y-axis, and you divide that by 2 as well. So you get 3, 4. So that's the midpoint of the line. Next, obviously, you have to find out the center of the circle. So that is given 7, 4. Now you'll notice that the center of the circle has the same ordinate, and by ordinate I mean the y-axis value, and that is the same as the midpoint of the line. So that's 4 over there, 3, 4, so 4, and 7, 4, that's 4 as well. So they're absolutely in line. Now you have the radius of the circle provided over here, so that's 1.5. And could we have the next slide? Yeah. So this is basically the diagram that you have. Now, as I said, it's an MCQ question. It's definitely an MCQ, but the point is that it has multiple choices as well, and there could be multiple correct options over there. So that's the whole point of the square boxes that I gave alongside. So since this has multiple options, so the best way to go about it would be to find a range. As someone, I think you read out, someone currently identified that you have to find out the minimum as well as the maximum, and then select all the values in between, right? So you have to find out d min, which is like the minimum distance that you can have from the point of the circle, from the point that's given over there. That's in line with the center as well as the midpoint of the line segment PQ. So you have that point over there, and let's say the distance is d min, and the distance d max is basically another point on the circle that's in line with the center as well as the midpoint. So let's call that d max. Now the total distance from center to midpoint is given as 4. Now why is it 4? It's 4 because it's just a simple subtraction, or the difference between the x-axis values. So one was 7, 4, that was the center, and the center of the line, or the midpoint of the line, was 3, 4. So the 4s were common, no problem about that. But then the difference was in 7 and 3. So you find out the simple difference between 7 and 3, which is 4. So that is the total distance from the center to the midpoint of the line. Now, you obviously have d min is equal to 4 minus 1.5. Now, why 1.5? Because 1.5 is the radius, right? So you find out d min that way. And d max is simply that 4 plus 1.5, which is the other side of the circle. So you get 2.5 and 5.5 respectively. Therefore, the range of possible distances is from 2.5 to 5.5, these two values inclusive. Now, it can be any value in between, because again, it can be any point on the circumference of the circle, and you've got like infinite number of points. So any of these answers that do qualify, so you have 4, 3, 4.5, 5. These are all within the range, 2.5 to 5.5. So they will all be right answers.
All right, wonderful. I think that's more approaching logically than how you have formulas defined. This is how I approach a sum. That's the idea here, right?
Yeah.
All right, all right. So, guys, how many of you got the answers right? How many of you understood how to approach this question? Are we all clear? Do you find this tip to be helpful? Oh, Tej Pratap says yes, me, yes, says Suma, Krishna says yes, clear, says Vishal Gandhi, right? So keep in mind, at the end of the day, the objective of the GRE exam is not to see how good you are with formulas. It's about how able you are in logically analyzing a particular sum. That's the idea there, okay? So please be clear about that. Now, I think rather than quant, we should talk a little more about verbal, which is what I think guest had clearly mentioned. Anisha has told us that she found verbal challenging, and I'm really interested to understand how did she climb from 164 in verbal, right? That's a big challenge there, big jump there. So tell me, what were the challenges you faced with respect to GRE verbal?
Right. I'm pretty sure I faced the same problem as most of you guys out there. So one big challenge was RC, reading comprehension. So firstly, my reading speed was lacking. So that automatically downed my performance by a lot. During the mock tests and during all the lessons. So I had to actually practice a lot, read a lot, and especially even my vocabulary wasn't as good as it is supposed to be for the exam. I mean, 3,500 words, that's a lot to expect from one person. So that calls for like a lot, like a huge reading habit. And if you are a voracious reader, it's going to help you go a long way. But then just in case you're not, I'm sure I can provide you with some tips that could help you learn the words and ace your GRE. So that was one thing, RC. The other thing was actually with text completion and sentence equivalence, like understanding the context in which the questions are provided and in effectively guessing the words and actually making intelligent guesses so that, your accuracy stays on point. Absolutely.
Okay. Now I think let's break this down into smaller blocks. First thing, of course, is the reading comprehension. Now, clearly, I think it's not a very easy area for a lot of students. And I'm pretty sure if you ask anyone in this audience at this point of time, if there's one thing they want Anisha to help is reading comprehension, right? So, from your experience, from your so far how you approached, what do you think are the common problems that they face, and how do you overcome that?
Right. One of the things that I already mentioned was reading speed, right? So specific reading techniques are going to help you a lot. So one big advantage that GRE or the GRE test pattern has is that you can actually navigate through the questions. So you navigate back and forth and you can mark questions, you can have doubts, you mark questions, you come back to them later. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to answering the questions. It's not like you answer one question and that's it, and you have to move on to the next one, never to see the previous one again. It doesn't work that way. So given this advantage, I think it's best to utilize it as much as possible. So you can actually navigate through the questions and see how many questions are dedicated towards one passage. So suppose you're given a passage and you're kind of lazy to read it and you're actually aiming towards time management, right? So given that, you might want to actually read the question first. So suppose there's just one question associated with one passage. That happens sometimes. And the best thing to do would be to read the question first, then come back and read the passage properly so that you can actually read it in the way that the question demands of you. So there are different kinds of questions. Like some questions, as you might have encountered, will just ask you what's the main idea of this passage. And you'll be given a list of options and you have to choose from them. So often the answers are like really confusing, but then one good thing to do would be to actually get the gist of the passage instead of reading very carefully, minutely. You're just wasting time. So you just speed read through the thing, basically what you call skimming. Just read through the thing very roughly. You do not have to understand the details. Focus more on the game-changing words like, although, however, blah blah blah. So all those are like really important. All the conjunctives that you have, those are really important in order to help you navigate through the passage. So that's one really useful tip that comes in handy for reading. And just in case you have like more than one question associated, suppose you have like 3 questions associated with just one passage. So you could speed read through the thing again in the same way. And then when you read the question, then you can come back and minutely find out the associated paragraph and then read through that paragraph again. So that way you're selectively reading, and I guess that helps with time management again. Okay. The second thing that I already mentioned is confusing answers. So you'll have various answers that are very closely spaced, and you'll be like, okay, maybe it's this one, and maybe it's that one, and maybe they're both. But then, okay, I can just select one. So those are the confusing answers that you get sometimes, and I guess the best way to go about it would be to understand what kind of misleading questions are very common in GRE exams. So I could give you some examples, like one of them would be exaggerations. So sometimes you have answers that kind of match with what the passage is saying, but then they're just slight exaggerations of what the author might be trying to say, right? The author will say ki it might rain today, and then the option will say it will rain today. So mild exaggerations of that sort, right? So that is one kind of confusing answer. The other sort would be out of context, completely out of context. So what I would advise to my listeners is that when you read something, do not assume anything. Like suppose you're reading one passage about antimatter, say, right? So do not assume stuff that you already know from previous experiences. Maybe you've read a lot about antimatter, but then eventually that's not going to help you over there. You just have to read the passage. You cannot have extra knowledge. So whatever you have, just flush it on the drain when you're reading that, right? So that's one way of getting rid of confusing answers. And the other thing would be maybe there are some missing ideas in some of the options, and some options are more complete in that respect. So always go for the options that best fit the passage. So that's about confusing answers. Then you have vocabulary, which is obviously really, really important. And more so when we come to text completion and sentence equivalence. So vocabulary is absolutely essential, which is why people keep harping on the 3,500 words. So that's another thing that you really have to take care of over there. And time management, as I already said, you have to be like really efficient. So just practice makes perfect, I guess. Yeah.
All right. So I think it's a very well crafted set of tips, and I think you've actually managed to clearly define what all can possibly go wrong reading comprehension. You put that in your screen very clearly. That's fantastic. Thank you for that, Anisha. Now, one question I have, I think, like I expected, and I already said, how many words did you learn? I think we should move on to vocabulary right now without any further ado. So, like you repeatedly said, 3,500 words. How do you approach? I'm going to ask you. Just take us through your techniques on how did you go about word learning, and how many words on an average or approximately you learned when you went for your GRE.
Right. I wasn't really counting the number of words that I was learning, but then if you'd ask me, like, I think I hit 2,000. I hope I hit 2,000. Yeah. So now it's like it was really difficult for me, as I said, managing time and etc. etc. But then I was advised by my SFAs to actually, or at least try to learn 20 to 25 words per day. But then sometimes that wouldn't happen, and words would get pent up. So there are some techniques that I started to use once I realized that it's absolutely a monstrous task, and I really do have to handle it. So one of them was the visual approach, which GRE has actually helped me with a lot because of the word bot. So I was like really impressed with the word bot that you guys have. So what the word bot has, I think we could move on to the next slide. Yeah. So let me just demonstrate to you what I mean by the effectiveness of visual aids. So just look at this word, inchoate. So how many of you guys can throw me an answer as to what inchoate could mean?
Guys, this is where you come in to help. Help me understand, what do you mean by inchoate? So I think Kushal has got it right. To be bound by chains, nascent, novice, inculcate. Okay, not fully grown, underdeveloped, no emotions, underdeveloped, starting, beginning. Okay, developed, initial, innovation. Wow, to acquire, early development, just begun. Okay, I think people are looking at the just the way it sounds and having a go at it. Incomplete,
Yeah.
says Sumit. Beginning to develop, okay, not fully grown or undeveloped. Okay, to create something just begun. All right, so I think probably we can go at the clue right now, right, Anisha?
Sure. Yeah.
So this is the clue that you guys have to tell me what exactly you mean. I think now a lot of people will pick up. So Monty Sharma says beginning to develop. Okay, beginning to develop says Anmol. Not fully developed says Akhil. Okay, starting point says Divya. Okay, beginning to develop. Not fully formed. Not fully formed. Inception. Wow, didn't expect that to come. Okay, not completely developed. That's the answer. I can see
That is.
lots coming, Anisha, right now.
Yeah.
I think we can just go ahead,
So
right? Yeah.
yeah. That is basically the definition. I'm glad a lot of you guys got it correctly, and even before the word, even before the visual aid, a lot of you got it correctly. So that's commendable. But
Yeah.
then, one of the things that I was trying to demonstrate was that, yeah, given the picture, I guess I heard a lot of the answers correcting themselves, and I think we got more correct answers towards the end. So which is like really good. Now the definition is definitely not completely formed or developed yet. Now, when you go through the GREH word bot or any word bot that you're using, so it's really important to actually use all your senses in order to completely absorb the word into your system. So yes, you look at a word, that's one thing. The second thing that you do want to do, like the reason we remember taglines from advertisements so well, because we keep seeing them on television, so we're seeing them, we're hearing them at the same time, they'll just keep harping on the name or some tagline that they've associated with it. And the other thing is that you'll actually see some visuals, right? So those are the things that actually help you remember all those words and all the names of the companies and all their different features, right? So same concept over here. You see the word, you can also play the audio if you want, and then you can listen to the word, how it sounds. And the other thing that you want to do is look at the picture, right? So you associate this word with this picture and it kind of sticks in the head. So the next time you see the word, you automatically get that visualization and you'll be like, okay, yeah, it means something of that sort. And then you can make an intelligent guess at that. So the usage is given over here. The project carried out by the junior scientists were still in COVID and far from completion. So I guess
Okay.
this effectively states it. Yeah.
All right. So the next technique that you mentioned was about etymology, right? Can you take us through that?
Exactly. Sure. So the other thing that helps you with intelligent guesses is practicing etymology. I mean, you already have a good vocabulary, maybe, right? So you already know maybe say 2,000 words. But then what about the rest 1,500? What about people like me who actually did not go through all the words? So the useful thing was that I actually started reading up the etymologies of a lot of the words. So whenever I came across a new word, or even if I knew the word beforehand, I would just either Google or use the word bot root. They have a root tab. So we go over there and we just go through the etymology of the word origin. And it mostly originates from ancient Latin words or maybe even Spanish, Italian, etc., etc. So those help you, and these word roots are associated with a lot of English words. So once you know the word root for one word, you can actually guess a second word. You can say that, okay, maybe it's something of this sort. And the other things that do help you, like the good thing about GRE is that they don't just throw a word at you and ask you, okay, what does this mean? Right? So what they do is they give you a set of options. So you have several advantages. You can judge it by the context, you can read the entire question, you can get some idea about the sentence in which the word is being used, so that it helps you better evaluate the meaning of the word. Now you also have options to help you out. So you can eliminate options that you know are absolutely wrong, and you can select the right one. So in addition to that, etymology is actually a very, very powerful tool in order to actually make intelligent guesses. So I think I have an example over here. Like, could we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many of you know the meaning of the word sanguine?
All right. So optimistic is Divya's answer. Okay. Routine says Surya. Okay. Cheerful and optimistic, red blood, cheerful. Okay. Wise, confident, positive, by that point, I can see a lot of people Googling right now. So cheerful, says Vamsi, cheerful environment, happy, confident, cheerful, happy, confident, cheerful. I think that's optimistic. This is the kind of response you got so far. Can you give us the actual
Right.
definition?
It absolutely looks right to me right now. But then I'll just take you through the process. Okay, what about for people who do not know the meaning of the word, right? I was hoping a lot
Okay.
of you don't. Okay. So let's just have a look. So even if you haven't heard of the word sanguine, maybe you've heard of sangria, right? So if you've ever had this drink, it's a Spanish drink of red wine mixed with lemonade, fruit, and spices. So it basically looks like blood, right? So because of
Okay.
the color that you have, so the word origin, it comes from sangria, which is Spanish. It means bleeding, and it comes from the word sanguine, which is blood, or in Latin, right? So I guess Spanish is like uh, derivative of Latin, so it automatically comes from there. So now if I ask you with this basic understanding, so suppose someone has not heard of sanguine but has had the drink sangria, then they can automatically associate sangria with sanguine, find out some similarities, and okay, can we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of you said optimistic or positive. That's like the number one answer over there. So that is correct. And if you ask me what relevance does it have with blood, then you could read the second option. So it says, of or having the constitution associated with the predominance of blood among the bodily humors. So previously it was said that you have these different bodily humors, or that were supposed to give you different moods. So blood was associated with a ruddy complexion and optimistic disposition. So that's where the thing comes from. And you also have literary meanings: blood red, bloody, or bloodthirsty. Yeah.
All right. All right. I think that's one more technique on how you can go about mastering words.
Yeah.
Okay. So guys in the audience, have you so far understood the two techniques we've explained right now? Are we all clear on how we can go? Can we go for the next part? We have, I think, one more important technique that our guest would be sharing, which would help you master, of course, your sentence sequence and text completion. Now, can we move forward, Anisha?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. The contextual clues, how does it work?
So given a sentence, like, let's just go to the example straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just throw it to the audience for now. Just read the question and just make your best guess at the two blanks. Tell me what you've got.
All right. So, guys in the audience, it's a question for you. And it says, although she was blank all throughout the play, she had the blank to complain that the play was boring. Right? So, what do you think is the right answer for these two blanks? Kindly let me know by answering it in the chat box. So, A and F, says Kanupriya. Okay, C and F. Okay. C and E, A and F. Okay, C and E, C and F. Okay, CF. Okay. So AF, CF is common. I think F is kind of something we've settled on, everybody. I think A and C has split people into two different bands so far. Oh, we have got a C and D now. Okay. C and D, A and E, B and D, A and F. Okay, I think there are a lot of answers. I think almost all of them are taking a guess, right? So I think, Anisha, it's time for you to help us understand how to go about this question.
Sure thing. So initially, let's just look at one blank at a time. So let's take hints. So we are talking about contextual clues right now. So look at the word although, right? So although she was something all throughout the play, she had the dash to complain that the play was boring, right? So the word although kind of hints to you that she was something that does not give her the right to complain that the play was boring, right? So it was mainly her fault that she found the play boring, and she does not have the right to complain that the play was boring. So that is like the basic idea of the sentence. That the hint that you should get is from the word although, right? So given that, I guess the second blank, most of you have actually answered it correctly. So that's effrontery, right? And which is absolutely correct. That's that's option F. She had the audacity or the effrontery to directly complain, or the impudence to complain that the play was boring, right? And the first option, if you're looking at that, is that although she was something throughout the play, she had the audacity or the effrontery to complain that the play was boring. So what can she be? She was obviously not impressed. She was obviously not impressed. She cannot be impressed if she says that she found the play boring. Okay, secondly, it's distraite, which is actually the right answer, right? So although she was like completely distracted, not paying attention to the play, she had the audacity to actually say that the play was boring. It's your fault, not mine. So that's distraite and effrontery out there. Truculent is actually truculent is basically like you know, it's more like she caused disruption to the play, which is absolutely not applicable over here because she said that the play was boring. So if she actually caused disruption to it, it was definitely not boring. Yeah.
I think we have only two guys who answered the right answer. One is Vishnu Pratik, and the second one was Sarthak SPK, right? I think that's a fantastic question for us, Anisha. Thank you for that. Guys, have you got a clear understanding on how to use contextual clues? I think this comes with the fact that you should have a rich vocabulary and also able to pick up the context. If you're able to do that, that would kind of help you pick up what we've explained here, right? Now, are we all clear about that? Can we go forward to the next part of the seminar, guys? All right, so Abhishek says yes, Mahesh says yes. All right, a lot of yes coming in right now. So we'll get back to all these questions. Now, the most important question, Anisha, I think everybody is very keen to ask you here. Now, usually there's a trend of whenever you prepare for GRE, any exam, competitive exam, there's one people going for self-preparation, one for going for online preparations, help, etc. Now, what prompted you to choose GREH among all the options available? What made you decide GRE is the right choice for you to help you progress with your GRE preparations?
Right. Initially, like just after coming back from the US, I thought that, okay, I'm going to start preparing on my own. And I had this Kaplan textbook and I was like, okay, this is all that I need. I'm going to prepare from there. But then after like 1 week or so, I started off with full determination. I was like, I'm going back there. And then I started off with full determination, 1 week of practice, very well done. And then after that, I started I slacked. Basically, I slacked and I had college to take care of. And then eventually I decided that this wasn't happening because, to be honest, GRE is the kind of exam that requires skills more than knowledge. Right? I mean, knowledge is there, okay, fine, the word list. But then you also need very, very good practice, especially for reading comprehension and quantitative, right? So given all those things into consideration, and I was also considering Magoosh, but then there was like international, and I came across GRE Edge, and I thought communicating with you guys would be better. I mean, just in case I had any problems, like you're just a phone call away. So yeah, so that is the main reason why I went for GRE Edge, and it hasn't disappointed me. Yeah.
All right, all right. So apart from that, what other features were you really impressed when you started preparing here?
Right. Yeah. So once I actually joined the course, then there was a lot of things that I actually found useful. One of them I've already mentioned was the word bot. It was really useful. Secondly, it was the progress report, which is displayed over here. This was actually my progress report, and I set my target for 165 to 170. I mean, I absolutely aimed high. So I was like, okay, let's just try this out. So they started displaying the average scores of students who scored within my goal range. So since my goal range was 165 to 170, you can see all those red vertical bars. So those are the average scores of the students who scored my target score. And my scores kept fluctuating throughout. Sometimes it was more, sometimes it was at par, sometimes it was below them. So, but then, yeah, it was an essential feedback that I needed. So you can see everything is like topic wise over here. You can see the topics listed down below. So the topics actually helped me to evaluate which were my areas of weakness. And those were the areas that I was actually looking at, and I really had to improve them. And I did try. So yeah, this feedback is like really important. And sometimes when you're analyzing things for yourself, you tend to overlook things. You tend to be overconfident about some things. And yeah, this graph as well. Time spent on RC tests. Wow, okay. Uh, so yeah, I'm mostly between the average time taken by my ideal student range and by the average. So I'm somewhere in between. Thankfully, I'm never crossing that average mark, but then I'm always somewhere in between. Yeah.
I
So
think the gap between
yeah, there were ups and downs. Yeah.
I think that gap between the movements have really drastically reduced over time. That's the objective of the learning here, which you have picked up over time. I think that kind of makes sense, right? So I think that kind of gives us the understanding on what the learning is, that when you look at the trend and pattern, if you start working towards it, that's how you'll be able to improve with constant feedback, right? So I think, thank you for that. I think it kind of makes sense now. So before we move forward to the next part of this online seminar, I'd like to ask one important question to the audience. Yeah, now this is your time where we're going to have an exclusive Q&A session with Anisha. We're going to ask as many questions as possible. But before that, let me ask you a question. How many of you here are very, very eager, keen, and determined and very clear that you are planning for a fall 19 admit and you would like to get started with GRE preparations as earliest as possible? How many of you are very, very clear about that? Just like Anisha did, you like to want to go for that golden score, probably a 330 plus here. So Animesh, Suma, Kiran, Vishal, wow, a lot of attendees coming in here. So what I've done is I've quickly launched a poll in your screen right now. Kindly answer that poll, letting us know what kind of assistance you're looking for. And if you are very, very serious about looking for help, support, or if you're very clear about starting your preparations, what I would request is type in GRE in your chat box and send it to me. I'll share a link privately with you. Kindly open that link in your respective browsers, whichever browser you're using. Kindly open that, fill your name, email ID, and your phone number in that particular link. Okay, there'll be an exclusive email link that we share privately with you if you type in GRE in the chat box and send it to me. This link will take you to a screen where there's a place you can fill your name, email ID, and your phone number. Right. So once you fill your name, email ID, and your phone number, you will be called by one of our GRE experts here who will help you with the upcoming process, help you understand what kind of assistance will be provided. And the best part is, if you're lucky enough, you will be able to avail exclusive offers with respect to the recent milestone. I think, by the way, Anisha, being a 330 scorer, you've joined the 1,500 320 scorers here. We recently crossed that milestone just a month ago, and you are one of that big numbers you've achieved. Thank you for that, Anisha.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right. So, in the meantime, I'd like to ask you one question, Anisha. Given that we have so many Fall 19 aspirants here, what are your tips here that you'd like to share? So far, you've taken the first step well ahead of others, and you're on your way to looking for a top university admit, right? So, what kind of tips do you have for our students here?
Right. One of the things that I already mentioned is like stay well ahead in your game. Like you know what your target is and you know what the deadlines are. So just stay absolutely focused and try and get as much work done as early as possible. Like I gave my GRE exam early because I knew that it would actually leave room for everything else. Like obviously just the GRE score isn't enough. I need like research on my CV. I need publications. Hopefully, I'll get some. So I need at least at least one publication to actually secure a very good university. I hope. And the other thing is stay informed and just make sure that the universities that you're targeting do have the kind of facilities that you are expecting from them and that they are absolutely the best for you, right? That's with respect to everything. I mean, personal conveniences, future grants, um, your area of interest, of course. So all those things taken into consideration, make sure you're making an informed choice about your dream university, and just do as much as possible. I mean, as I said, just a GRE score might not be enough to get you through all the admission processes. And so besides your GRE score, just build a really good CV and channelize and direct all your efforts towards the kind of research work or whatever it is that you want to do. So just be very sure about what the goal is. So once you have a clear picture of the goal, I think the path to it becomes clearer, right? And yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, I've discussed all the techniques with you, and yeah.
This is very sweet of you, Anisha. I think a lot of good tips here, a lot of very informative content also being shared here. Now we will immediately resume the Q&A session. In the meantime, I can see a lot of people request if they're not got the link yet or not able to access the link. Guys in the audience, if you not yet got the link that is about shared, kindly click on type in GRE chat box and send it to me. I have sent the link in the chat box. If you open the chat box, you'll be able to see that. If you click on that link, you'll be taken to your browser, whichever browser you're using, Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, or Internet Explorer. Fill your name, email ID, and your phone number in that particular link. So once you fill in your details in that particular link, you will be able to avail an exclusive call with one of our student counselors who will help you understand what kind of study plan would be more suitable for you. Because at the end of the day, we believe here at GRH, everybody has their own pace of going through certain topics, and it's important that you give enough materials that suits your pace at the end of the day. So talk to one of our student counselors, understand what is that they can offer, and the best part is, like I said, having reached a milestone of 1,500 320 scorers, it brings me immense pleasure to inform that we have exclusive offers running on premium GRE program as well. Do ensure you talk to one of our student counselor and avail the link as well. So Prishali, Danme, and Lavanya, I've sent the link in the chat box. If you open that, you'll be able to get it. Just in case you're not able to access the chat box, it is available in the right of your screen. Or if you're in your mobile phone, just click on the question mark button in the top tab. If you click on that, you will also be able to see the link. Okay. Now, I think a lot more people are starting to respond now. That's great, guys. Now, I would like to ask a very important question. Now, I have a question from Moti Shyama to Anisha. Anisha, the question here is, what was your ETS practice test score? Did you take the ETS practice test?
I did. And how much was it? Wait. I think one of them was like 320 something. I'm not really sure. And the other one was actually below 320. So yeah, I guess it was like a 318 or something. So yeah, I did not do too well in my ETS exams, which is why I said that I was actually very demotivated. On just the night before the exam, I was like, okay, this is not happening. And so I took the morning to cool down. And I think, well, the whole point of these mock tests is that, set a very high benchmark. And if you don't achieve it, if you achieve it, you feel overconfident and you'll be like, okay, I've done this, so I'll ace it in the exams. And maybe that's the agenda of ETS. I'm not really sure. But the other thing that I think could have gone wrong was that I was giving it in my home environment with a lot of other distractions as well. So over there, like when you're giving the test over there, they had amazing facilities and you could actually block out the noise and everything and completely focus on the work that you're given. That plus confidence, if you've got some, it's amazing.
All right, fair enough. I think that's very well answered. Now, the next question is okay. Now, did you were you forced to use any other materials apart from GRDH? That's a question from Namrata.
As I said, I started off with Kaplan text, and that was just like 1 week of practice from there. And they had some very basic tips for verbal reasoning and stuff. But then I think what helped me the most was GREH. And once I started using GREH, I did not really have to look at anything else at all.
All right. So I hope that addresses your question. Now, Vishal Gandhi has a question for you, Anisha. He wants to know, how did Anisha get the internship at New Jersey?
Right. This is basically my college. So I come from Heritage Institute of Technology, Kolkata. So my college has a tie-up with this university, and every year they select top 10 students from our college. So we go through like a vigorous grinding process, and we eventually make it over there. So some years the count varies, like maybe it's 10, maybe it's 12, but it's generally around that. So this time it was a team of 10, and we went there and we worked for 45 days, as I already mentioned. And it was some really, really good experience over there. Yeah.
Of course, I think New Jersey is very close to New York, and well, New York is a very, very rich experience, honestly speaking. But nevertheless, I think moving forward, next question is coming in. One important question, Tej Pratap, probability and permutations. Do you have any tips? That's a question from Tej Pratap.
Right. So probability and permutations, this actually calls for a lot of logical reasoning. And the main problem that I would face was that there are several cases to be taken into consideration. I think that's the main problem with permutation. So you're given some combination and you're asked how many patterns can you generate from here. And then you automatically tend to miss out on some things. I mean, yeah, your logic is fine for some of the cases, but then you mostly forget to consider the rest of the cases. So I think the first way to go about it is actually think about the cases with a cool mind. Think about all the possible cases, and yes, of course, think about shortcuts as well. So there are like long ways of doing it, and there are shorter ways of doing it. So I think once you have your basic concepts clear about what permutation is supposed to be, what exactly combination is supposed to be, what the difference is between the two, so I think that can actually go a long way. And um, I think you should really assess the problem before you start solving. So that is one of the questions, or um, yeah, those are some of the questions where you actually think before you do. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So I hope that addresses your question, Tej Bata. Now, the next question, Sachin Devata, please ask that is GRDH and the actual level of difficulty is the same? The difficulty level of the preparation material and the exam, is it the same?
Um, Again, I'm not really sure. I mean, but I was terrible at assessing myself while giving the examination. So sometimes I would think that the mock test went really, really well, and I would confidently hit the next button, and then my scores would come, and I would be like, "What?" So that happened some of the times. That did happen, and honestly, sometimes I would feel that the questions were easy, but then they're sometimes deceptively easy, as I would say. I mean, sometimes it seems like, okay, it's fine, but then maybe it's not. So, yeah, there were trends that I noticed, and the more I practiced, I actually understood where I was going wrong, and I started noticing patterns in my mistakes. So, yeah, I picked up from there.
All right, all right. So the next question is a long one. I'll just take it up because we've been coming for quite some time. Do you think one's present level of verbal ability plays a bigger role, or the regular hard work put in to get past a score of 160 in verbal? Do you think it's a gift or is it about hard work? That's the question I believe it is.
Right. So if you looked at my initial scores, you would definitely say that it's hard work. So because yeah, I used to be lousy in most of the verbal reasoning. So okay, I'll give you like an idea. My diagnostic test score for verbal was 154. I mean, it's not that bad, but then it's pretty much below what I really wanted. I mean, at least I wanted a 160 up. So, given that parameter, there were areas in which I was lacking. So, just after my diagnostic test, my 2B SFA called me up and she told me that, okay, these are the things that you really have to focus on. And she gave me articles to read from, right? So those articles, extra amount of reading. So yeah, I actually had to do all that. And as I said, it's more of a skill than knowledge based. So it's actually a skill about how well you can read something, how well you can comprehend stuff. And I guess there's no shortcut to it other than hard work. And if it comes with like a set of like a predefined set of skills, and if you already have that, then it's great. But then I think you just add a little bit more of hard work to it and you're good to go. Yeah.
So you believe from 154 to 164 has been a hard work, right?
Yeah, for me. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. That's actually pretty good. I think it's about smart preparation. Now, Supriya has a question. How many hours did you put yourself in a preparation every day? What kind of time did you spend there?
So my target was like at least an hour. So GRE Edge would give you lessons on a per day basis. So per day I had, and it would vary. Like some days I would have verbal, some days I would have quantitative. So on the days that I would have quantitative, I used to be really happy and I would solve everything like really, really fast and get over with it. But then on the days that I did have verbal, I mean, I would think twice before sitting down and, I actually made sure I had time to spare. And it would take me like about 1 hour, 1.5 hours, some days even 2 hours if I was being lethargic. So that was about verbal. So, but then I don't think it should require more than 2 hours per day. And you also have the word bot to take care of. So as I said, 20 to 25 words is the ideal target per day. And then sometimes I would miss out on a few of the lessons and work would pile up, and then I would call up my GREH facilitators and I would be like, please reschedule all my lessons. So sometimes they would do that. And once things were evenly distributed, it was easier for me to handle that way.
All right, fair enough. I think that's the kind of personalization service we like to offer. In fact, Tej Pratap is already sad, already a part of GRE, says mine contains both daily. So definitely talk to our SFA Tej Pratap to tell her that you're having this concern. She'll probably help you with it. Now, the next question I can see is AWA. Now, this is something we have not discussed in the webinar. Sugandh Singh wants to know, how did you prepare for AWA and what was it like in your real exam? What was the experience like?
Right. So initially, so I attempted the AWA lessons like right towards the end, just before the exams. So just before I started with my mock exams, I attempted the AWAs that GREH offered me, and initially I did not have any clue as to how to go about it, right? So one thing I realized, it's more like a debate, right? So and the good thing is you do not have to be for, you do not have to be against, you can even be somewhere in between, right? So that's like absolutely your choice. But then whatever your choice is, you really have to stick to that, and you have to justify it like really well with examples if possible. So even if you cannot cite, like I do not have, like, I regret to say that my GK is not very strong maybe, or even my knowledge of history is not very strong, but then I would cite examples from real life. So I would give like practical examples. I would also use numbers a lot, right? So I would use numbers to justify exactly where the passage is making assumptions that it should not be making, right? And one of the useful things that you could do would be consider that the passage is wrong, right? Consider that the passage is flawed in and out, and it is up to you to understand why it's flawed. Like, you are the critic sitting over there and you're criticizing someone you absolutely hate, so everything starts coming into your mind, and all those points, just compile them and actually make sense out of them. So like, suppose a passage says that 5% of the population is something something, right? So 5%, you do not know how much 5% is. It could be just among 5 people, it could be among 100 people, it could be among a billion people, right? So how significant is that count that you're being given, right? Or suppose a passage says that 99% of the people in the room agreed to this, so this must be right, right? So that is an assumption that if you just listen to, you'll be like, oh yeah, that must be right. But then suppose, for example, there were just 2 people in the room, right? So chances are both of them said something, and it doesn't really matter. 2 is not a big count. Or just one person says, so you have 100% agreement, where it's just one person, right? So those are the flaws that you need to identify. So that is what I mean by numbers, right? So once you actually get used to this, I guess it can help. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I think that's a very, very well-crafted AWA tips as well. I think with that, we can come to the, okay, I think I have one question from Vishal. He wants to know, how do you deal with words with multiple meanings?
Okay, right. Sometimes, like most of the times, what I noticed were that the meanings were somehow interrelated, even if that interrelation wasn't exactly obvious. Like, I gave an example today where you had the word sanguine, right? So one interpretation was optimistic. The other one was bloodthirsty, and someone, an absolute layman, would be like, how do these two connect, right? And then you had that option in between, which actually explained stuff and said, it's actually interrelated, maybe not very obviously, but then somewhere down in history, those were the beliefs that, yeah. So basically, that was the example that I gave you over there. And so a lot of the words are like that. Like, even if you have multiple meanings, it's somehow connected. And once you remember those connections, and I think you'll be fine. And etymology again helps a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so thank you so much for this, Anisha. I think it's been a spectacular session. I think a lot of information have been passed through it. Like I said, it's a very exciting journey for us also to be a part of your 332 scope. And I think all congratulations to you again from SFAs, from our student welfare team, from our student counselors. Wish you all the
Thanks a
best in
lot,
your
Nisha.
journey ahead.
Well, all right.
We'd
Thank
be
you.
more than happy to help you make this dream a reality. Right? So thank you for this, Anisha.
All right. Thank you.
You have any message for the audience here? One last message.
Well, just all the best. Yeah.
All right. So that's Anisha
Okay.
for us, guys. Thank you so much, Anisha, for being a fantastic guest here.
Good night.
Good night. All right, so guys in the audience, that's the end of today's seminar, and I think we have the next seminar coming up very soon, next 10 minutes at 8:30, 100-day study plan on how to master GRE. Now, for the people who joined the webinar, thank you so much. We've been a wonderful audience. It's been a lot of energy, a lot of questions that have been asked. In case you've mentioned a question that have been missed, don't worry, don't get concerned. We have our contact will be right on your screen. And if you are very serious about your GRE preparation, all I request you to do is type in GRE in your chat box instead of doing. I'll share a link privately with you. Fill in your details, and then you can expect a call with one of our student counselors who will guide you through your entire GRE process, explain you each and every step. The best part is you might also be able to avail exclusive offers on premium GRE programs as well, right? So with that, we come to the end of this online seminar. So I've shared that link with you, Deepak, as well. Kindly go there. Satya, Leena, Vishal, Tej, Pratap, Kshitij, Prashant, thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Until I see you in my upcoming webinars, this is Vishnu signing off. A very good evening and take care, guys.